Welcome to Gamer Profiles, the show that profiles gamers and game makers from all over the world. Now sit back and relax. We are going all the way to Hong Kong. Now to let you guys know, even though this show can be watched at any time, we are actually recording this on a Friday, and we are talking to Aidan Price on Saturday all the way in Hong Kong. And he is from East Asia Soft, and we're going to be talking about Lost Sea. But first, I just want to welcome you to the show. Aidan, thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Cool, thanks for having me.
Now, we love talking about all types of different games, but one of the things we also like talking about is like the influences and backgrounds about the people who make all these games. Because obviously we feel that if you're going to get into wanting to do anything, whether it's music, art, writing, and of course video games, you probably liked video games to begin with it. Otherwise, it'd probably be kind of boring, right? So, I mean, let's just start, I guess, maybe growing up. What were the type of games and stuff that you liked playing growing up?
Yeah, I guess like the first thing I really remember was the original Super Mario Brothers on the NES. And then we also had like an old Atari as well, so it's a lot of these really old sort of hardcore space simulators. So you'd be flying around and then a bit like Elite, basically. I think it was actually an Elite style clone. So it was always like a really weird mix of like console games, but then also like these really, really hardcore sort of PC style simulators.
Oh, okay. And was there was there a lot of console influences versus computers, or was it a mixture, or did you mostly play one over the other?
I think it was mostly console when we were young, mainly because on the Atari you had to do everything from cassette, and so basically it took ages to load. That's if you could even get it to load. So I think once we had a Nintendo, that very quickly became like the the go-to way to play games, just because like, you stick the cartridge in and just go really.
Did you have like a favorite game overall that was just like your go-to game?
Oh, probably. We called it Probotector, but I guess in the States they called it Contra.
Ah,
Just like they just redid all the sprites with robots and stuff like that. So like the two main characters were robots, and the box art for it looked really cool because it was like, I guess it would have been the sort of early 90s or maybe even the late 80s, and so we didn't really have any concept of like what anime was. But yet, you looked at all of the manuals for these early games, and I guess in like looking back on it, they looked very sort of prototype, almost like Gundam-y. So yeah, that was definitely the one that we played all the time.
now from there, I mean, how did you know that you wanted to go into game design and wanted to create games? Because I mean, there also obviously was a point where you knew that you were you went from being a gamer to actually wanting to create games.
Hmm. I guess it was just because after I graduated, like I did a sort of very traditional computer networking degree, because sort of in those days I was really into competitive sort of multiplayer stuff. So I played a lot of Day of Defeat. It was a sort of World War II mod for Half-Life.
Hmm.
So a bit like Counter-Strike. It's like pretty much one hit will kill you, but it was more sort of about territory control. And I was really, really into that. And then when it came time to sort of deciding what I wanted to do, I thought, oh, yeah, if I do some sort of more traditional networking, then maybe I could work for like one of these companies like Jolt, one of these sort of server hosting companies. And so I did that, and then just after graduation, I just got like this really, really terrible job doing tech support. And so I think one night I was just playing like Metal Gear Solid 3, and I just had like this real moment of clarity, like, oh yeah, this is really what I wanted to do. Like, just I was like, yeah, I want to make this. So I sort of pretty much quit my job that week, and then just went from there really.
And before you even came to, cause I was looking at the LostSeaGame.com, and I was looking at the bio up there, and I saw that you worked on other games, and
Mhm.
I love Magic the Gathering, and I saw that
Oh, cool.
you worked on the Duels of the Planewalker. Can you tell us a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit
right.
about how you came to that project? Because that was really cool.
Yeah. So one of the first jobs I got in games was in QA. So I was at EA, and it's very temporary. Like when you start out in QA, unless you're like a lead or a very sort of specialized QA, I think the maximum contract that they can give you is 3 months. I think they call it like a cycle or something like that. And so I was like, it was really cool working at EA. It's really cool, but I was very aware that like, oh, if the project scales down, I might not have a job and what have you. So I was just looking around for keeping my options open basically. And I just saw that the Stainless guys were advertising for an associate producer role, and I had some sort of similar experience. So I just literally shot them an email and then like went and had a chat with them. And it was like one of the sometimes like when you have an interview and it just goes quite well. Just remember going and chatting to those guys, and it felt just more like having a chat than actually a sort of interview. And then just sort of started with them, and I think it was they just signed Magic, or they were just in the process of starting on Magic. So pretty much got to see it from the beginning, and like working with the Wizards guys and seeing that all pan out is yeah pretty cool.
Now, one of the things that I'm always curious about is just gaming overall in different locations. Because I mean,
Mm.
I've been to like Canada and Mexico, but as I've never been to Hong Kong. Have you seen? I mean, like, could you tell us maybe in arcades or differences in maybe gamers or gaming in Hong Kong than perhaps maybe you've got to see maybe in states or other places that you've been able to visit or see? Like, is there any like
Yeah,
or in gamers themselves?
yeah. One of the things that quite surprised me when I first came here is that the arcade scene's actually like a little bit more robust here than it is in the UK. Like arcades in the UK are pretty much dead. You go in like an arcade, like a seaside resort, and they've still got like Time Crisis 2. It's basically the arcades in the UK have just been frozen, and then there was like another big one in London called the Trocadero, where a lot of the fighting game community hung out, which got closed down. And like I know a bunch of those guys opened up another arcade recently, but that's one of the main things that sort of surprised me when I came here was the I mean, it's not super popular, but there is still definitely arcades that get a lot of traffic. And talking to people, I think the main thing is in Hong Kong, it's like the apartments are really small. And also here, people tend to live with their folks until they're sort of married and sort of, before they even, have kids and stuff. They all live at home until they're like 30 or what have you. And so the apartment's very small and you've got like six people living in them. And so people tend to do all of their entertainment stuff out. Like you couldn't really do a lot of console gaming if you've only got one TV in the house and like, you've got to share it with, five or six other people. So that means that a lot of stuff like PSP and DS was very popular here back in like 2009. Um, but then smartphones came out, and so now it's like pretty much entirely smartphones. Because everyone needs a phone anyway. And then you see a lot of there's a sort of localized version of Puzzles and Dragons here called Tower of Saviors, which is incredibly popular. And those guys were really, really smart actually because what they did was they saw the sort of popularity of Puzzles and Dragons, and you couldn't download it on the Hong Kong App Store, and so they were just like the first to market with like a localized version for Hong Kong people. So that did incredibly well. Like Candy Crush, obviously, like Clash of Clans, just the sort of mobile stuff, really.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so of course, one of the things that the main reason that we came here is talk about the Lost Sea game. And before I go into my questions, because I mean I got a chance to take a look at it and the trailer and everything, and it looks great. But why don't you take us through Lost Sea?
Okay, so the main concept is you're this guy who gets stranded in the Bermuda Triangle, and it's a procedurally generated sort of island chain. So each island is generated individually, and what you need to do is you need to go around and you need to navigate the archipelago and sort of find the resources that you need to build and upgrade your boat so that you can escape. And as you travel around, there's also other people who have been stranded on the island that have got sort of different skills and abilities, and you can recruit them to your team and put them to work in various areas.
I like the fact that how colorful this is. Like that was one of the first things that I noticed, that it was like, it's really vibrant. And then I also like when I was reading about it how you're running around and he had the checklist. It's like survive with your
Yeah,
machete. So the first thing,
yeah,
it has that survival aspect to it. So you're running around and you're collecting the parts. So the first part, it also has kind of like almost like a classic feel to it, because you're running around and you're collecting parts. So you're building it, but then you also, I noticed in the trailer that since you have the Bermuda triangle aspect to it, you realize it's not just as simple as getting a boat together, right?
yeah, yeah. Cheers. I mean, that's really great to hear because one of the first things that we decided early on was we just wanted to make something colourful. You know, we sort of all grew up with Banjo Kazooie and Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. And, I mean, there's enough sort of realistic sort of games out there at the minute. And also, just from like, if we're working on something for 2 years, you kind of want to enjoy looking at it, I guess, is the main thing. And then that sort of influenced a lot of the humor aspects. But I mean, you're absolutely right as well because it's the Bermuda Triangle. It gives us a chance to do a lot of interesting things with it. Like maybe an island's not even there when you go back. Like maybe you want to backtrack to it, or we can reshuffle the positions of things and do a lot of very interesting positional things. Like I don't know if you saw on the trailer, but like the boat sails off one side and comes out the other side.
Mhm.
So it gives us the chance to do a lot of neat stuff like that, basically, where it's almost like a puzzle element to it.
And then the upgrades. So I mean, it's not just about escaping. It's that you have to take the time to actually put things together. So and I noticed that that's important because you have I noticed that you have a culture in gaming where a lot of people want to rush things through.
Mm,
You give people the ability to build and upgrade. They feel like, okay, I do have the goal to get off this island, but since I have the exploration factor and an upgrade factor, I am willing to take the time to explore and upgrade, and I think that that's an interesting factor. Can you tell us a little bit about the upgrading process in the game?
yeah. So there's a couple of ways that we look at it, really. There's the upgrading of your guy, but then there's also your crew members. And the way that we view crew members is they're almost like items in The Legend of Zelda, which is they facilitate different um, mechanics almost. They're we wanted them almost to be a bit like living gear, and so when they die, you just can't do that stuff anymore. So I guess one way to think of it is almost like there's a sort of almost like a class system to the guys. So like, oh, this guy can open doors, or like this guy can do this. And so what that hopefully does is sort of makes people actually really want to take care of their guys because there's permadeath on the crew, not on the player but on the crew. So if you've only got one of a particular type and he dies, then you're going to be really, really stuck. So it's all about making the player have to make these hard decisions like, oh, he's really useful, but do I want to take him out on a sort of mission? Because if he dies, then I'm going to be stuck. So maybe I'm better off leaving him at the boat, and just taking a couple of more disposable guys if I'm just out exploring. But say you find a sort of a temple or something that you need to unlock and you need that guy, then you're going to be sort of really, really cautious about making sure he doesn't die.
And that's cool because like again it's not just escaping and it's exploring. So you find all these ruins and then you find out that it's not just a regular island. So it's like for people that have played different games like or let's say even Lost, I kind of almost
Mm.
had kind of like a feeling like that. But like if you play like Montenuba Revenge or even like Uncharted, I mean, yeah, it's not like that type of game, but
Mm.
you think about Ruins or Adventures or Raiders of the Lost Ark, you get those type of feelings. And like you said, when you mentioned Banjo and Kazooie and things like that, the colorful feel, I thought was a good job. But the exploration part of it, I thought it was a good job. Um, what was, I guess, the inspiration of making sure that the exploration part of it was engaging enough for people that they kept interested in exploring?
Mm. Yeah, so I mean, content's always going to be a big one there. Like, the more stuff that you can find, it's going to drive people on because if they're exploring the game for 20 hours and they always see the same content, then they're going to, they're very quickly going to realize and sort of lose that will to explore because it's like, oh, what's the point? It's always the same palm trees, it's the same this, it's the same that. So that's something that we've been really focusing on. So, it's not just jungle environments. We haven't shown any of the other environments yet, but because we're using like this island system, it means that we can really sort of mix it up a bit with the. It's not, we don't have to explain why you can go from like jungle to desert to snow in one island, because that would be really hard to do from like a level creation standpoint, making it feel sort of believable. So we've got all like these different islands, and they have different themes, and then within each one, they've all got their own unique props, and then we've got like sort of special landmarks as well, and then sort of challenge rooms, that I mentioned about like the locked temple doors and things like that. They'll probably change from zone to zone. So hopefully that will be enough to keep it fresh as people are exploring, and then obviously as you progress, you're going to meet different enemies, things like that that are gonna keep it challenging.
And when can we expect to see this out?
Um, middle like Q3, I guess 2015. So we're gonna aim to go into cert in like June, July, and then because we're on Xbox One and PS4 and Steam, depending on how long it takes to go through certification on the various platforms, so we'll determine like the final release date. So we can't say like, oh, it's definitely going to be August, but it's definitely going to be 2015. It's going to definitely be sometime before Christmas.
All right, awesome. And so, guys, the game is Lost Sea, and you can see more at lostseagame.com. I hope you guys go and check it out. But Aiden, thanks for coming on and talking to us about the game.
Cool, cheers. Also want to just quickly pimp the Steam Greenlight a bit because
Oh, sure.
we just went on to Steam Greenlight before we went to PAX Australia.
Ah, yes.
So it's kind of a new experience for us because we all come from like a traditional console background. We're sort of quite used to just getting the nod from Microsoft and Sony, and they're like, yeah, yeah, cool, it's okay to make a game. So sort of Steam Greenlight's a new experience for us. So yeah, go and check it out.
Yeah, that's one thing I did want to ask because that's originally when we wanted to talk to you. You were going out to PAX Australia. How was that trip?
Yeah, really good actually. Like, I mean, I'd never been to a PAX before, like, because we're quite far away from the States, so I'd never really got the chance to go to like the American PAXs. So I mean, just for me, like from a sort of personal interest, it was brilliant because I sort of got to play a bunch of stuff that I've been keeping my eye on, like Evolve and Splatoon and stuff. But from a game standpoint, it went really well. It was like the first time that we'd had anyone outside the office actually play it. So like the potential for it to just be a unmitigated disaster could have been quite high. So it was like Friday Friday morning, the doors open at 9 o'clock, and I'm there at 8:45, just like, oh man, is this gonna go really, really badly? But no, it went quite well. Like the booth was pretty much full the entire time. Like we had two demo pods there, and I think there was only like a couple of minutes where there wasn't anyone like playing Lost Sea throughout the whole 3-day weekend. The visuals seemed to be quite a big draw for people. Like we attracted a much sort of wider, like much more sort of mixed variety of people than we sort of anticipated. So we got like a lot of families with young kids who were really drawn to it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this looks cool. This is the sort of thing that I can play with my kids," which isn't anything that we sort of consciously aimed for, but we're really, really happy that people think that. Um, and then just from like a game feedback perspective, it's brilliant as well, right? Because you spend, I think at that point we've basically been working on it 9 months, and we'd sort of played it a lot internally, obviously, and then sort of had a couple of friends and family play the build. But you have to sort of make a lot of assumptions when you're sort of making a game. Like, oh, I think people will struggle with this, or oh, I think people will find that simple, and then you actually get to see that whether or not that's true. So a lot of our assumptions got sort of shattered, but it's really good because then you can chat to people, and if they find something easy that we thought's hard, or vice versa, we can actually chat to them, and then over the course of 3 days, find out like the common themes, and it gives us like a really nice sort of list of actionable points that we can address, as opposed to just sort of releasing it after 2 years and hoping that everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, that's always good to be able to go someplace like that and get good feedback. And PAX has always been really good. I always thought, I mean, E3 is great as well, but I thought PAX is always good to get really good feedback from a lot of fans. And I always thought they always had a great fan base to go out there. And it's really good to hear that you guys had a great booth, because I think that your game looks really good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more gameplay and stuff from it.
Cool, cheers.
All right, so once again, the game is Lost Sea, and you can check it out at ObsoleteGamer.com. And once again, Aidan, thanks for coming on the Game Profile Show and talking with us. We hope to hear more from you soon.
Cool, thanks very much.
All right, guys, once again, this is Gamer Profile Show. I'm your host, J.A. LaRock, and we'll be back very soon with another episode. But until next time, remember our motto: never stop gaming.